Heyo everybody, Haku here with HaQ&A 84. So yeah, we didn't have a HaQ&A last week. I guess I'll explain that first to start things off. I didn't really feel like I had enough topics last week to go in and make a whole video, and even this week I'm keeping it a little bit short. But I was like, you know what, when this happens I'll just wait a week and let topics build up a little bit more over the course of an extra week, and when that happens I'll do some sort of like special different video, like a top whatever video or a discussion video on some particular thing, something like that. I'll do a special video whenever this arises and I don't have enough topics, I think, for a HaQ&A that week. That's what I'll do. Last week I didn't do that because a bunch of stuff had come out that usually comes out monthly. So I was working on videos for all of that, so I was already working on a bunch of videos last week. So I was like, I'm already working on a bunch of videos, I don't really need to push myself to think of something last minute notice. So yeah, that's just generally the plan here on for the future. And even for this week, I've got a lot of videos I've been doing. I've been working on videos pretty much all day, every day. So here I am finally doing this on Wednesday, and I have some stuff to do outside of YouTube tomorrow. So I'm recording this, getting all this ready a day early. Gonna be working on the second episode review for Assassination Classroom, because we're doing anime reviews for that on Sundays now. That was the first series chosen and selected by the patrons. So if you want to get in on deciding things and suggesting things for that time slot in the future, then the link to the Patreon will be in the description. It also helps just keep the channel going and all that. So what I plan to do for that is every 3 months, running alongside whenever I switch over schedule to the next anime season, I'll put up another poll or another topic where I'm like, okay, put your suggestions here, and then maybe like a day or two later I'll put up a poll with all those suggestions that people put in, and whatever wins is what we'll cover on the channel. But at least for right now, I'm expecting the next poll, I'm probably just going to put up a post saying, do you want me to finish the first season of Assassination Classroom or do something else? And I'm assuming everybody's just going to be like, just finish the first season, because I'll finish that by the end of the year, and then when we go into next winter season, which will be at the beginning of January, people can then vote if they want me to do season 2 of Assassination Classroom, or if they want me to do something differently at that point and come back to Assassination Classroom later. So yeah, that's pretty much what the plan is currently for all of that. So yeah, for this one, I've got a couple Tower of God topics that I'm putting at the end behind one Boku no Hero Academia topic and one Magical Girl Raising Project topic. Before any of those, I have just a few general comments to talk about, because they're about more general things with me and the channel in general. But the first one is from Lenart, and I felt like this was worth answering on sort of like a bigger scale on a video to explain things, which is why I'm putting it here. But Lenart said that I've been watching your Tower of God live reactions and reviews for about 2 years now, and I was wondering, why did you start to address most of the characters as they? I'm a pretty tolerant person, and I understand that some Tower of God characters may have or had questionable sex, like Evankel or Ho, but now it looks like you're overusing it. Is it bad to call, or is it bad to call someone he or she even when most of their traits back it up? Mind you, I'm not a native English speaker, so maybe it gets to me more because I interpret the English language in a different way than natives. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Well, first of all, thanks for watching my videos so much. But yeah, I don't really think it's bad when it comes to grammar rules or anything, but just me personally, I tend to habitually refer to everyone as they, like just in a general sense, like everybody, regardless of gender or anything. It's just kind of a habit that I've grown into, and I feel like even when I was a kid, I always just sort of like use they for everybody, because it's, especially when I'm on camera recording and stuff, and like I'm just sort of like talking nonstop. I guess it's just easier to say they is just general pronoun referring to anything. So I do have a habit of that, I think, even in conversation away from YouTube. Like I said, even when I was like a kid, I feel like I always just generally use they very, very often. And of course, there's certainly nothing wrong with calling a guy he or a girl she, especially when you know for sure that they go by he or she. But yeah, just me in general, I just use they as a very general thing out of sheer force of habit. And I've actually like watching a bunch of different YouTubers, because I don't watch much like TV. I watch a lot of YouTube. I've seen the same thing, because I've noticed the same thing, and I've seen a lot of comments in people's videos too, being like asking the same thing or saying, why do you use they so often? So I feel like it might be something that speaking on video for recording might actually push that habit even more. So I already felt like I had that habit, but I feel like doing YouTube and seeing so many other YouTubes use the language in the same way, it makes me think that maybe the way that you speak in recording when you're by yourself just talking to a camera or whatever might push you more to use they more often. Or there's even sort of, or it even sort of could be just a thing with just general, casual, relaxed dialect that maybe a lot of people just tend to use they, and I don't notice it as much outside of YouTube as I notice it in YouTube. But yeah, so I've heard and seen people saying the same things, and yeah, just general force of habit, I use they. Of course, there's nothing wrong with calling someone he or she if that's what they go by, but I feel like out of force of habit, I use they a lot, and I catch that myself as I'm talking about characters. Even if I totally know the character is a guy or a girl, I still just generally use they. It's just very easy. And a second thing that somebody brought up that I'm just kind of putting here instead of making an entire separate section for Assassination Classroom, is that Yuri's a hard said Koro-sensei's the best, also that Nagisa booty, and yes, Nagisa is the prettiest member of the class. Best boy, I guess. Best member of the class. Nagisa is waifu husbando already. So yeah. That was just it for some general stuff that I thought was good to just throw here instead of separating it into a series section. Next up, I'll do a topic for Magical Girl Raising Project, then one for Boku no Hero Academia, then I'll finish us off with Tower of God. Alright, so to start off, the first thing to talk about for Boku no Hero Academia, and really the only thing I have for this specific series this time, Piyush said, "Curious dying seemed BS to me too, since she could have broken her fall with an explosion like Bakugo, and dying from that fall was so weird to me too." And this is something I've talked about in like at least 2 of my live reactions, but I totally agree. I just think that we've seen people survive some crazy stuff in Boku no Hero Academia, even when their quirks have nothing to do with them surviving crazy stuff. So someone dying from fall damage seems ridiculous. It's like if somebody in like, I think One Piece is a bad example, because in One Piece you can say the same thing. There are people taking these like nuke-like attacks and surviving, and yet sometimes people die from getting shot. But then sometimes people can get shot a whole bunch and not die. So One Piece is kind of all over the place with this, but it's like if, say, someone in Naruto died from infection from just one of the small cuts they get during a fight. It's like something that's really simple that we've like just seen happen to a million people and they've been perfectly fine, so it would be weird and out of place for somebody actually sort of named and important to die from something so mundane. And that's the thing, Boku no Hero Academia is something where we see people survive some crazy stuff, and we also don't see people die very often. So the fact that we don't see people die very often, and the few cases in which we've seen people die have been like, it took kind of a bit of damage to kill them, it makes it so that, like, it seems very odd that somebody would die from something as mundane as fall damage. And especially given the case, like I said before, where we've seen people like, say, Bakugo, his quirk being explosion makes me think, okay, his body has to be stronger than what you would think a normal human body is, to withstand his own explosions. But we've seen him get put through like brick and concrete and stuff, and it's like, brick and concrete is a lot harder than a human body is. A human body will give before the brick or concrete will give. So to see him being able to take that kind of damage and then somebody die from falling, it just, like you said, it seems a little bit ridiculous, and it's something that I've said multiple times too, that just seems very, very off. And yeah, I think now that I'm talking about it, this is something that I haven't brought up as a point in any of the other times I've brought it up, is the fact that we don't see people die very often. I think that adds into it too. Not seeing people die very often makes it even weirder to see somebody die from something so mundane. So yeah, that was my only topic here for Boku no Hero Academia discussion this week. Next up, let's talk about a topic from Magical Girl Raising Project, which has been great lately. I'm loving Aces. I think that, you know, really, I can't say that it's just getting better, because it was never really not good. It's something where, like, Unmarked is really, really great. I'd consider Unmarked like a solid 8 or 9, maybe even 9 out of 10, I'd say. And then I would do like 11 or 12 out of 10 when it comes to Restart. Restart is still like the best thing I've ever read. It is so good. And Limited itself, Limited's okay. I really don't like the ending, and it's not only that I don't like it, but I also don't think that it's very good. But overall, Limited's still okay. But even then, after that, Joker's shot right back up to like an 8 or 9 out of 10. Joker's is very, very good. And then Aces is right up there with it. In fact, there are some ways in which I already like Aces better than Joker's, but we're only like halfway through, and Joker's is still like, we're only halfway through, and Joker's does still have some really, really unique things that it has going for it. But my one comment here this week is MTGM saying, Sorami and Michan's battle was pretty cool. At first glance, Sarami's magical skill is a non-combat magical skill. However, she used it for battle very well. Although Sarami's the way Sorami looks and the way she speaks like a Japanese gal, she's the most thoughtful and sensitive person of the three sisters. Her death is a big loss for Snow White's team. And yes, I loved their fight. Sorami versus Michan was such a well-written fight. It was so good. That fight was so good. Deluge versus Ace of Spades was incredible. We've had a lot of great fights this arc. And we've had a lot of great fights in previous arcs. But in previous arcs, and in this arc too, it feels like the just overall story tends to supersede any specific fights, but this has had some really, really great specific fights. So yeah, I love their fight, and I love Sarami's character. I think that some of the characters from this arc are already on my list of all-time favorites. I think Uluru is most certainly, like when I do my favorite characters video again the next time I do it, Uluru is definitely going to be up there, and Sarami's definitely going to be up there. She is like one of my all-time favorites, and not even after this fight. This fight definitely makes my opinion of her raise even more highly than it was before, but my opinion was super high of Sarami's character after Chapter 1. Chapter 1, the way that she was written was really, really great. I love, like you said, the way that she has this sort of, I don't know, stereotypical pop culture teen girl kind of look, and what you would sort of think of her outwardly. She is the most thoughtful and sensitive person. She is like really smart, constantly thinking things through, and I really, really enjoy her character and how well written it was. So yeah, I love Sarami's character, and it's funny because when it comes to looking at like the design sheet and stuff, Sorami's and Ularu's are two of the least interesting to me, but I love their characters. I think Ularu, I absolutely love. Ularu already is like a potential top 5 character for me, and if she had an even cooler design, she could even be my favorite. But we'll see how the rest of the art goes, but I really love Ularu and Sorami. But yeah, that was all my discussion this time around for Magical Girl Raising Project. Okay, now last up we have some Tower of God stuff. We got 4 topics, 4 comments here to talk about this week. So yeah, to start us off we have Akash Panda, who said, I was excited when Bomb made a point to himself that he won't use the Thorn, because it kind of implied that he'd have to struggle without the Thorn, which doesn't make sense just because he just held down a ranker without the Thorn minutes ago. But here we go again, there's no struggle. I'm a bit disappointed, but it does make more sense. And see, that's the thing with me too, and there was another comment I got that was similar that I didn't use because it was just similar to this one, where I said basically the same thing. That's the thing, it makes total sense. Like, again, Bomb's an irregular, Bomb has gone through all this training, all this different stuff. It makes sense from what we've seen, but it making sense still doesn't make it good. It doesn't make it exciting. It doesn't make it fun. Like, it's just not exciting and fun for the main character to pretty much never ever have to struggle. Like, some of the parts of Tower of God that I praise the most are when Bomb has to struggle and has to overcome. Bomb's fight with Joaquin in the Dollar Show, incredibly good. One of my favorite parts of the entire series. Bomb's fight with Elaine, where he gets his ass kicked quite a bit and has to like fight through an opponent who's pretty much evenly matched to him in order to get the win. His storyline where he has to fight Data Zahard, where he undergoes actual logical training and grows as a character, not just in power but in a personality sense with what he went through and what he found out about himself. And he uses that to go and struggle against Data Zahard. All of those moments are really good, because at the time Bomb had people around him who were still equal to him and who he could struggle against. And of course, it's just that the bar is being raised and raised and raised. But the problem is that it's being raised too quickly, that he's already taking out rankers without using his full power. Even though, again, the ranker wasn't using transformation. It's like taking, say, I don't know, taking a ranker version of Sachi and telling him he can't use the Thornbush stuff. Because that's what he would have used to climb the tower. It's his main power. So, of course, he beat the guy while the guy wasn't using his main power, but still, it isn't a fun or exciting thing to not have the main character have any real struggle. To know going into things, Bomb's just going to kick the guy's ass and we're going to move on, rinse, repeat. And that happens far too often, but I think hopefully there is some way that things can still be salvaged, things can still be redeemed in that sort of vein. Like, there's still tons of other things with the series that are great. One of the biggest negatives is Bomb, but I still think it can be salvaged because it wasn't really that long ago that we were getting the really good stuff like the Name Hunt Station or the data floor. So it wasn't really all that long ago. I feel like it really can be salvaged, but at least right now, yeah, it's one of those things where Bomb being as strong as he is makes total sense, but that still just doesn't make it fun or interesting or exciting or particularly well written. Sorry about that. Had to take a jump cut. And I'm sorry if before that jump cut I was like, as I was answering the end of that last comment, I was like making weird faces or anything. Oh my gosh, I just got a cramp in my foot. And oh man, that was killing me there. I had to stop recording for a second. But yeah, I'm back now. Next comment was from Yuri Zahard, who said, Shinsu bombs are such an overused tool in Tower of God. If Shinsu's such a powerful and omnipresent thing in the tower, I would expect top tier fighters like Yama to be able to detect a threat like this. Usually I like to talk about the things I enjoy in a story rather than my criticisms of it, but this is bugging me a little bit more every time that it happens. Shinsu bomb in your head, in your airship, in your cage, in your station, in your train, Shinsu bombs everywhere. And I totally understand that criticism. I kind of get it, because when I think of Shinsu Bomb, I immediately think of Wangnan's Pokeballs. But yeah, this does kind of happen a lot. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Shinsu Bomb, wasn't that something that had to do with Khun's heart blowing up? Or was that just some other thing that Rachel had going on? It's weird that I don't remember that. That really wasn't... I mean, God, I was going to say it really wasn't that long ago, but it was probably a year and a half going on 2 years, wasn't it? Jeez. But yeah, I totally understand that criticism. I don't think it bothers me that much, really, but I understand where you're coming from. And that's the same thing with me, with all of my reviews and stuff. I love to talk about what I love about a series, and if I have anything negative to say, I generally just think that, like, I don't know, if I don't like a series, then I'm just not going to talk about it. But yeah, I love to talk about what I love about a series, but I do think that there are some things here and there worth criticizing, especially recently. Like, before recently, not as much, but nothing is perfect. And so yeah, just the whole nothing is perfect thing, I think that there are some things that are worth criticizing. In a similar criticism that I get people saying a lot too, is that too many characters' powers, instead of being creative or different, too many of their powers are just a Shinsu beam or blast. And I understand that one too. Again, that doesn't really bother me very much, since Shinsu beams and blasts are kind of just the general backbone of the Tower of God fighting system, but I do understand both criticisms. Even though it doesn't bother me that much, I definitely get where you're coming from with it and can see what you're saying. Next up, Renan said, nice King of the Dogs panel. So Agro Agnes's Firefish power-up might be temporary because the power passes on to who it heals. I think it's consumed in the process, but we'll see. It's too OP anyway. I really did like the King of the Dogs panel a lot. It was simple, but I really enjoyed it. I really like Yama. And the thing with the flame power is, I could totally be wrong, but I see it as like a resource. Like, say, ammo in a gun. Eventually you're going to run out, unless you get more somehow. And I don't think Khun Agro Agnes is going to be going back to Yeon Woon and getting more flame somehow. I look at the flame power for Khun as a resource. So it's something that's eventually going to run out when it's all used up. We saw that what little bit went on to Kan Hong was used up mostly in healing her, and what was left was passed on to Kanzone, which had her collapse because she didn't have its energy to feed off of anymore. And we've seen Khun pass it around to heal Kan Hong, I guess subconsciously, use it to heal Birdish, and then use it to give Birdish a power-up. So I feel like it's something that Khun's not going to have forever. I feel like it's something that it's a limited resource, and this limited resource, every time he uses it, it's being used up more and more. So he's either going to use it all up and not have it anymore, or he's going to have to say to himself, okay, it's something that I need to hold on to and only use in case of emergencies. So that, I think, is the way that I view it personally, is that it's a resource that has a limited amount of uses before it's going to be used up. Of course, there are tons of things I think could have been written better about it. I think that it could have been given to somebody else, or if it was going to be given to Agro Agnes, we could have waited a while and let him explore his ice powers and things like that a bit more first. Or that maybe it could have a more direct explanation of how it works. I think there are a lot of ways in which it could be better, but yeah, just the way I look at it is like it's a resource, it's something that Khun Agro Agnes has, but each time he uses it, it's going to be a little bit more used up until he runs out. It's just the way that I view it, given what we've seen in blog posts and in the actual content itself. And then lastly, this time around, AlphaCent007 said, probably a silly question, but why do so many people covet a Slayer candidate position? Like, what exactly are the benefits other than money from FUG? Because if And they had said something else along the lines of, because if people are that strong, that highly ranked anyway, becoming slayers, you'd think there'd be another way that they could get that money. For me, personally, I think that the reason behind it, the reason people do want a Slayer position, is because it would come with a lot of influence. We've seen both that the lower members of FUG treat them like gods, and also that even citizens that they don't even know, just random citizens that don't like the Empire, will treat them as a god. We saw this from people like Jaja and people like Waryun in the case of lower ranked members of FUG treating Bomb as sort of a god, even if they're not like totally like all over worshipping him, they still view him in respect and are going to do what they think is best under his wishes as a god. But we've seen it with random citizens during the workshop battle and 30th floor and all that, where even random citizens who don't like the Empire have a lot of respect for FUG and specifically the Slayers, viewing them basically as gods. So it's one thing where it's not just people giving you money, but you're going to have people giving you anything, treating you as a god if you have that Slayer position. So I think that's one of the big reasons that somebody might covet it. Because you would think somebody like Doom, like, why would Doom want a Slayer candidate position? He already has so much. What more could he have? And what more he could have is more people worshipping him and holding him up. He already has all this power. He already has all this wealth. The only thing more he could have is more. So I think that's the reason. I think it's almost sort of a greed situation. Whereas people like Yama didn't necessarily want to be a Slayer. Yama just is a Slayer in order to keep FUG away from using Doom's power the wrong way. So I think it's more a situation like that. Or like Bomb. Bomb doesn't want to be a Slayer. It's just the way it is. And I feel like the same situation you could even go for White with. White just wants to take out REA Hone. FUG just happens to have the same goals. So it's a situation where he didn't necessarily want that, but I'm sure he doesn't mind the extra ego boost of having more people worshipping him, more access to funds. You already have that plenty, but greed and arrogance could lead you to want more. So yeah, I think that's why. I think it's just the fact that they will be treated by gods, at least by citizens and lower ranked members of FUG, even if not by the upper ranked members like people like Kelhelm. But yeah, that was my thoughts on that, and that's it for the video. I want to say thank you all so much for watching once again, and if you want to, if you did like the video, and comment down there to tell me what you thought of all this, what you thought of my thoughts and all that. Anything else you want me to talk about next week, anything at all. Subscribe for more of all this, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there and stuff for the channel or talk to you there. And if you want a link to our Discord server to talk to me or more of us on Discord, then just ask and I can give you a link and all that. Also, if you want to help support the channel on Patreon, as I said before, link to the Patreon will be in the description, and you can not only help support the channel there, but also get to every 3 months suggest and vote on new series. So yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I'll see you all next time.